Chaos is not the same as disorder.
You know, as a Splinter Cell fan of over 20 years, I live a sad life, but it used to be really good. The first Splinter Cell, released in 2002, came out of the shadows, ironically, and directly challenged its Japanese counterpart, Metal Gear Solid. It felt modern and cool, and the visuals were cutting edge for the day. Inspired by Garrett's light gem in Thief, the light meter gave the dynamic of light and shadow a real meaning in the context of a stealth video game outside of simply looking pretty. It also established the character of Sam Fisher, a humorous, seasoned, tough guy that, thanks to Michael Ironside's vocal performance, charmed and endeared himself to players. Released in 2004, the sequel, Splinter Cell Pandora Tomorrow, took the first game's formula and improved upon nearly every aspect. Several quality-of-life enhancements were added, the audio-visual presentation was that much better, and overall, the sequel was positively dripping with style and atmosphere. And unlike other sequels in the genre, nobody's soul lived on through a severed arm. At this point, Splinter Cell was 2 for 2 and a heavy hitter. Ubisoft could have played things safe and just continued to nudge the ball down the field a little bit. Ironically, this is what most people have come to loathe about the publisher in modern days, but at the time, Splinter Cell 3 could have been a simple progression of the first two games, and we would have been happy. Look, everyone knows Chaos Theory is the best, and since this is sort of my last will and testament to this great game, I really feel compelled to go all in. Also, friendly reminder, I use chapters on my videos, so feel free to skip around at your leisure. Let's begin. At the end of the first Splinter Cell, weaponized computer code known as the mass kernels were turned over to the United Nations. The UN put together a team of computer scientists to reverse engineer the algorithms in a program called Project Watson. The group was headed by Bruce Morgenholt and Abraham Zerkesi. An important note about Chaos Theory is that the overall tone is much more grim, and the game wastes no time establishing this new, more brutal quality. This is Sam's first mission in the game. One of the UN computer scientists, Morgenholt, was kidnapped and taken just off the coast of Peru. When you find him, Morgenholt is being brutally interrogated while strung up above a bathtub. It's horrific, especially with the sounds of Morgenholt screaming and the gang of thugs delighting in his rotting body. This also serves to establish Sam's more mature tone in this game. When you interrogate the first enemy, Sam is his usual dry, acerbic self and has fun cracking a few jokes. When he questions the main thug that was brutalizing Morgenholt, however, Sam is pissed off and essentially just tells the guard that he's gonna off him here and now, and that nobody will miss him when he's gone. As it turns out, Morgenholt was captured by Hugo Lacerda, leader of the People's Voice, a militant Peruvian group. Lacerda is aboard the Maria Narcissa, out sailing the Pacific. During the mission, Sam discovers a shipment of weapons that Third Echelon traces to a bank in Panama. Although Chaos Theory is able to be finished without killing any NPCs, something I really love in stealth games by the way, there are instances where Sam's mission is to perform some wet work, the first being Hugo Lacerda. After this, Sam travels to the Panamanian bank to collect more information on the mass kernels while stealing $50 million worth of French government bonds. The robbery is a smokescreen for his true objective, and in a smart twist, the optional objective for the level has you upload several fake emails to make the heist look like an inside job. Sam learns that the other UN programmer, Zerkazy, is somehow involved in everything, as well as a new mystery man, Dvorak. After a mass blackout disrupts power in Japan, as well as along the east coast of the US, Sam is sent to Manhattan for some sleuthing in Zerkazy's swanky penthouse. Sam learns that the guards patrolling the apartment are employees of none other than Displace International, the PMC owned by Doug Shetland. Shetland is Fisher's old buddy from their time in service. Pandora Tomorrow included a few interactions with Shetland, including the time he smuggled an SD card up his backside.
I killed.
Thanks. How'd you hide it from your guard?
Just wash your hands when you're done with it.
The guards in Manhattan are also here to protect someone named Milan Nedic, an employee of Displace and, as we find out a couple levels later, a Bosnian war criminal whose real name is Milos Nowak. We talk with a peculiar gentleman, and we learn that Dvorak isn't a man at all, but an infinite state machine being used by Zerkazy to repeatedly run the mass kernel algorithms in succession to improve their fidelity. So, quick recap. Weaponized computer algorithms created by Philip Mass were used in the first Splinter Cell. The UN has inherited the code and hired 2 programmers to reverse engineer it. One programmer was tortured to death by a Peruvian rebel group, the People's Voice, under order of Hugo Lacerda, himself on hire by a mystery benefactor. Sam Fisher gave Hugo an envelope on his neck and found a shipment of arms connected to a bank in Panama. Sam goes to Panama and steals $50 million in a robbery that was a smokescreen for his true objective, to learn more about the algorithms. At which point, Sam learns that the other programmer, Abraham Zerkazy, is involved, as well as a mystery man named Dvorak. Turns out, Dvorak is an infinite state machine that Zerkazy is using to organize and refine the algorithms. For whom and for what, we don't know yet, but we do know that Displace International is involved, as they were found guarding Zerkazy's penthouse. They're also protecting a Displace employee with a pseudonym of Milan Nedic, but his real name is Milos Nowak, a notorious Bosnian war criminal. Displace International is a private military company with several lucrative contracts with the US government and is owned by Douglas Shetland, an old friend of Sam Fisher's from their military days. Something saucy is afoot. And that brings us up to now. Third Echelon wants Sam to infiltrate Displace headquarters in New York. Story-wise, this level is a bit of a stopgap. The blackout is resolved during the mission. Milan Nedic, aka Milos Nowak, deleted important files from a computer like a former presidential candidate, and we learn that Zerkazy is tucked away in a cozy retreat on the island of Hokkaido. Oh, I love this cutscene. Sam suspects that Shetland is dirty, but offers him an olive branch. Cut ties with Milos Nowak. Shetland rebuffs Fisher's offer and instead suggests that he take a job with Displace. This scene, though brief, is brilliant. It demonstrates Sam's growing distrust of Shetland while not being totally convinced or outright accusatory. Of course, Shetland knows this, but attempts to use his charm and history with Sam to throw him off of the scent one last time with a promising job offer. Resolute in his mission, Sam covers the business card with his drink, and it's off to Hokkaido we go. It's here where Redding informs us that Milan Nedic is in fact Milos Nowak, aka the Bosnian Barber, named so for his propensity to scalp prisoners during the war. Real sweetheart. Needless to say, Sam isn't a fan, and keeping with the darker tone of chaos theory, you're not here to incapacitate or imprison people like this.
You're gonna make me cut your throat and look for the words inside your neck.
After a villainous monologue revealing his true intentions, something Shetland does a lot of in this game to be honest, he strikes down poor Zerkazy in a very dramatic, cinematic scene akin to noir films of old. At this point, it's made crystal clear that Shetland is the target.
He's the target.
Yeah, see, I just said that. But alas, he escapes the Sam Fisher shave. It took 5 takes to get Sam Fisher shave right. Sam Fisher shave. The basis of the story's global conflict is that China and North Korea are concerned that Japan is expanding too far militarily and reaching beyond its own borders. Boy, that's fucking rich. So, North Korea and China plug up the Yellow Sea, and the United States sends in the USS Clarence E. Walsh to basically tell them, fellas, don't mess with the PlayStations. Well, then a North Korean missile is launched that sinks the Walsh, and it came from this here missile battery in North Korea. Turns out, the launch was orchestrated from Seoul, South Korea. Just then, North Korean troops cross the demilitarized zone and invade South Korea, and yet another missile gets launched from this battery, which Sam is able to neutralize in a very dramatic scene before it can do any damage. When talking about the geopolitical drama, Battery is easily the most dramatic in the game. It's very high-stakes, Hollywood-type storytelling, and the performances here really sell the moment, especially Don Jordan as Lambert.
Sweet Jesus, Fisher. The NKA just committed. They're coming across the DMZ. We're at war.
Soul is pretty thin plot-wise. It has an excellent bit of character development for Fisher, but that's tied to the big gameplay moment that we're going to talk about in just a little bit. The tension of the plot really hits the high notes in the bathhouse. Shetland is tracked here, and while snooping around, Sam discovers that Japanese special forces are here as well. You're led to believe that Shetland might have dealings with the local Yakuza gang, the Red Nishin. Nishin, in Japanese, translates to herring, so Shetland is here to meet with the Red Herring. Okay. We find out in the final level that our supposed ally, Admiral Toshiro Otomo, is working with this place from the shadows. ISDF isn't here to take Shetland down, they're here as his partners. Otomo sent a Japanese official, Kaneda, to buy the algorithms from Shetland. Negotiations break down, and Kaneda orders his troops to open fire but are quickly overwhelmed by displace. After which, Shetland pops Kaneda and takes off. Sam pursues Shetland, who leaves behind bombs for Sam to defuse, which we do while listening to Shetland offer his rationale for why he's doing what he's doing. Shetland basically just wants to kick off a third world war and watch his PMC dethrone the US as the world's leading superpower. The title of the game, Chaos Theory, is Shetland's plan to throw the world into madness and, as he says, hope that whatever comes out the other side was better. Right, well, that's certainly a plan. Anyway, the old friends have one last verbal exchange while staring down the barrel of each other's sidearms. Shetland makes one last attempt to appeal to Sam so that he may lower his weapon and talk with an old pal. Thing is, if you don't shoot, Sam will lower his pistol and Shetland will try to sneakily eliminate Fisher. Fortunately for me, I don't trust like that. Hey, remember when a couple of you complained that I used that Toy Story clip too much in the Double Agent review? Okay. With Shetland out of the way, Sam is sent to Kokubo Sosho, where Sam learns that Admiral Otomo is working as a rogue entity. To stop World War III, Sam must bring in Otomo alive so that he may testify in front of the world that he was acting alone without his government's knowledge. Otomo, like Shetland, gives a big bad guy speech before attempting seppuku with a large ceremonial blade. Sam rushes in to stabilize Otomo, and in a cool touch, Sam honors the blade after saving the Admiral. I'm not sure why, maybe honor amongst warriors, I don't know, but it looks cool. Sam bursts a window over 100 feet underwater and floats to the surface with Otomo. The Admiral testifies, and the President thanks the nameless organization for their efforts. Third Echelon share a laugh, and that's it. So, I kinda ragged on this somewhat anticlimactic ending, and yeah, I suppose it would have been nice to have a sequel bait or a mass orgy or something, but I do appreciate how this team isn't supposed to be a group of obnoxious glory hounds or big party animals or whatever. I appreciate that the team just relaxed and prepared for the next threat, which, as it turns out, is baldness.
Oh. Give me a little salute.
So, I personally enjoyed the expanded plot in Chaos Theory. It's much more dramatic and the stakes are the highest they could be, but there's a lot to digest in Splinter Cell 3, and something that's always bugged me is that the whole plot hinges on quite a few contrivances. You really do have to suspend your disbelief to get the most out of this game. And by the way, I'm not taking it too seriously, it is just fiction. And before I go on, at least Douglas Shetland is a distinctive character that has a goal. He's a bit of a madman, but he's not the stereotypical villain with a twisty mustache and a cat on his lap. He states his intentions clearly and why he feels compelled to act the way that he does, and he's shed a lot of blood on the front line to feel that way. Compare this to Emile Dufresne and the JBA in Splinter Cell 4. They had some vague, undefined, try and take over the world motivations, and it was just dumb, frankly, and it got even dumber in Splinter Cell Conviction, but ta-ta-ta. And the plot of Chaos Theory is far from dumb, but my point remains. Any little failure along the way could have ruined Shetland's grand plan. What if the People's Voice accidentally killed Morgenholt before he could divulge anything useful? What if Otomo had been successfully eliminated in the SF raid before being able to testify? What if the USS Walsh had successfully repelled the torpedo attack, or if Sam had failed to stop the second missile from the battery? What if Kaneda's guards actually popped Shetland in the bathhouse? What if I'm thinking way too much about this? Look, guilty as charged. I just love this game so much, and yeah, I've thought about it enough for one lifetime. And again, it's just a story, so don't take what I'm saying too seriously. None of this means that I don't love the story in Chaos Theory. I do. But it's not really because of all the spy thriller stuff and the web of international war drama. Quite frankly, I love the story because of Sam Fisher, Lambert, and Grimm's daughter. The characters are better than ever. It's not even a comparison. The character dialogue in Chaos Theory is light years beyond the first two games, and I have great affection for the interactions between the team members in the field. The humor is actually humorous without trying hard, and the jokes don't come off as desperate or cringe. In particular, I enjoyed the running gag between Sam and Grimm about Sam's age. Ultimately, I prefer the more down-to-earth stories of the first two games. The frighteningly realistic tales of ethnic cleansing with Nikolads and the nationalist rebel groups under Sidono, or the mentally fractured, hate-fueled revenge of Soth. However, I'd rather play Chaos Theory any day because the interactions and the dialogue between Lambert, Grimm, Sam, Redding, and all of the NPCs throughout are so strong. The interrogation dialogue, in particular, is perfect and fun to discover playthrough after playthrough. And although the story is contrived, I'll always have a soft spot for the spy thriller motif where world stability is hanging by a thread, and your actions from the literal and figurative shadows are the difference. Nobody did this better than Chaos Theory. Of course, this wouldn't mean a thing if your video game isn't fun to play. No problem. Okay, let's just say it right at the outset. In my original review of Splinter Cell Chaos Theory, I said you couldn't do the split jump. I've been playing Chaos Theory on and off for 2 decades, and I just never knew. And boy, oh boy, am I a silly little goose. Not only is the split jump in this game, but it's easier than ever to pull off. Instead of spamming jump, just approach a wall and click shift. But hey, look, I got my meat flute played by 2 girls at once.
What have you ever done, bitch?
Alright, I'm overcompensating. I was wrong, and I'm sorry. Yeah, I know, Metal Gear Solid 5. Look, I got Ground Zeroes the day it launched. I got 5 the day it launched. Shoot, I bet I was playing Metal Gear Solid before some of you were even born. Phantom Pain is great because of the sheer multitude of options given to the player, something Metal Gear has always excelled at. But for my money, nobody has done stealth better than Chaos Theory. And it's not just one thing. Splinter Cell 3 has a whole-ass mood to it that gives the player the ultimate satisfaction of slipping through each level like a shadow. And it all comes down to the control that Ubisoft Montreal gave the player, especially the game's big attraction, butt sex, a system known as Closer Than Ever. I am obsessed with this system, and I will never not love it. As you approach a sentry, Sam begins to coil up and his posture tightens up as he prepares to strike. Like a snake? Now, let's talk about Sam and his sassy strut. I discussed this during my review of Double Agent when comparing both versions of that game, but to recap, you don't simply move Fisher around like you did in the first 2 games, where he steps and then drops ass to grass. You control each frame of Sam's gait cycle, and when you pause for a few seconds, he'll gently settle into a deep squat. You can also creep backwards and turn on a dime as well. The sheer level of control, combined with the mouse wheel scroll to dictate movement speed, makes this the smoothest stealth game. And that's just the start. Chaos Theory introduced loadout options prior to launching missions as well. Stealth grants you more non-lethal gear, Assault grants you the new shotgun attachment for the SC-20K, and frag grenades as well. And Redding's recommendation is basically Ubisoft Montreal's suggestion for the level you're about to play. And on the topic of levels, the Lighthouse was the first level shown to the public, and I remember having the demo disc from OXM back in the day. I played it over and over. 20 years later, it's still amazing. You also get a taste of the alternate pathways that Chaos Theory offers. Nearly every level is essentially just one big sandbox where you can find separate and interlinking pathways for the extra curious players. Alternate trails, ventilation shafts, locked doors, overhead beams, and so forth offer so much more creativity for your approach. Now, if you're just playing straight through and killing bad guys, no worries, but for the ultra stealthy ghost playthroughs, the sandbox map design is infinitely rewarding. It also lets you reach some optional objectives. Sam now has primary, secondary, optional, and the occasional hidden bonus objectives. Another big addition that really elevated Chaos Theory beyond the first 2 games is the knife, modeled on a Gerber Guardian backup that Sam carries on his low back horizontally, scout style. In the first 2 games, Sam would hold his 5.7 against an enemy's temple, which was badass looking, but you knew he could never drop the hammer. Now, Sam can absolutely use his blade to strike down enemies. And instead of the big old dumb elbow from the first 2 games, Sam is much more capable with his hands now. With a right mouse click or a right trigger squeeze, Sam can knock out enemies on the spot with a brutal palm strike or squeeze the air out of them in a chokehold. If you hold the button, he'll automatically shoulder an enemy instead of having to pick them up to move them. If you use the left mouse button, however, that knife starts to come into play and attack in a hurry and you'll get him in the back. Quietly sneak up from the side and a quick slash to the jugular. Attack head on and Sam will be up to his nuts and guts. I mean, he'll poke the guy. You know what, forget it. If you have a captive and you use a lethal strike, it's basically a Bret Hart backbreaker, but for real. And the sound is brutal. So I'm not big on playing lethally because A, I like being stealthy, it's just how I like to play, and B, it seems weird to me that a guy like Fisher, though a trained killer, would go around leaving corpses in his wake. It doesn't seem like something he'd do. Anyway, it is a really good time to let your goggles down every now and then and just go mad. And the lethal tools are a freaking blast to play with, especially the underslung shotgun. I wouldn't say the game is built to be a direct action game just yet, but shooting and fighting is so much better than it used to be. Sam's new aggressive mobility is on display here as well. You can still climb overhead pipes, and yes, you can split jump like the old days, but there's much more. An awesome mechanic that none of the tutorials show you how to do is the door kick breach. So, in the game, you can bash doors now, which is not only hilarious, but you can knock out bad guys with it. If you're holding a weapon and select bash door, Sam will kick in the door like a SWAT team member. If you simply select open the door, he'll holster the weapon, open the door, and then re-equip it. But man, that kicking animation is so dope. Trusty old lockpicking returns, and I still love that simple minigame. But if that doesn't work for you, use that flashy new knife and break in. Keep moving, stay tight. But be careful how aggressive you become. This is still a stealth game ultimately. However, you won't fail your mission if you get too many alarms anymore, but the punishment this time, in my opinion, is much worse. Lambert is disappointed in you, he's very curt with you, and Sam doesn't respond with funny quips. It's yes sir, and then finish the mission. Lambert even cancels your other objectives. Seriously, they're crossed out. You can do them if you really want to, but nobody acknowledges your effort. Like, man, I know these aren't real people, of course, but I felt like I was letting down my dad or something. Yeah, what else is new? Sorry, Irving, one more chance for old time's sake? Oh, and try to whack a few civilians when they tell you not to and listen to his response. You'll feel the shame. Further into the lighthouse mission, another alternate pathway opens up for the player. See, you could simply run down the steps, but if you wait for this guy to finish his work, he'll break down this barricade, opening up a new zipline to the lighthouse. Other bits of freedom include how Sam can satisfy some objectives. Here, I could have just eavesdropped on the guard's conversation, but if you accidentally waste him or you just wish to move faster, the filing cabinet upstairs also nets you the intel. Another gameplay expansion that people still talk about on forums to this day is the end-level statistics screen. Some of the later levels on Expert can be quite difficult to land 100% on, but the challenge of seeking the perfect run adds a ton of replay value for dedicated fans. I really love seeing how excited new fans are to share their Expert runs with the community. Also, the bathhouse can kiss my ball bag. The Maria Narcissa is a solid level. It's not my favorite, but the open-ended design is wonderful, especially when searching for the optional objectives. There's also a great demonstration of my favorite new addition to the formula, the sound meter. In a quiet environment, breaking locks and popping light bulbs can really get you into trouble, but in a machine shop, there's enough sound pollution to cover your actions. This dynamic is solid gold and so natural for Splinter Cell. I still cannot fathom why it was removed from version 1 of Double Agent. So, the Narcissa is a fun level overall, but for me, it pales in comparison to the MCAS Banco de Panama. The gameplay in this level is the epitome of why so many of us come back to Splinter Cell 3 year after year. It's the quintessential example of the freeform sandbox level design and spy thriller moments that made the series what it is. Well, what it was. Moments like rappelling into the bank lobby between a grid of lasers are iconic. This isn't terribly complex, mechanically speaking, but it doesn't need to be. It just looks cool. While we're here, I'd like to bring up the OCP for the pistol. It stands for Optically Channeled Potentiator, but who cares? In a nutshell, draw your pistol and click right. Instead of a bullet, it shoots a signal that disrupts electronics. It's temporary, so you need to make your moves quickly, but it's also silent and won't break anything that the enemy can then become suspicious of. I love this gadget so much, and I never ever get tired of using it for those oh-so-quiet ghost runs. It cannot be overstated how clever this device is for a stealth video game. It's simply brilliant. We also get a look at another new feature, remote hacking with the Electronically Enhanced Vision, or EEV goggles. See, you can hack various computers, retinal scanners, and keypads now, but there's something a little extra slick about doing it from afar. The new hacking minigame is good. Just tap E on the lit up numbers, narrow down the code line. It's nothing too crazy, but again, like all the other mechanics in the game, it's engaging without being needlessly complicated or cryptic. So the game isn't holding your hand, but it's not prohibitively difficult. It's perfectly balanced gameplay. Oh, and don't forget to brain someone with a brick of gold. The main event, of course, is cracking open the vault. The build-up to this moment is perfectly paced. Using the telemetric lockpicks is clever and interesting, and again, it's not overly complicated. You crack the pins, and you get that big purple EMP blast wave as the vault door swings open with great weight. It is an incredibly satisfying conclusion to an excellent level. But the bank has more surprises too. Waiting for the guard to fix the keypad while he complains about having to fix everything, listening to one guard shout the director's office code because surely nobody was listening, the sneaky laser on the way out of the vault, and so forth. But this level changes a fair bit if you act a damn fool and get the alarms going. You can hear Lambert warn Fisher that the Panamanian army will come down on you if you keep getting caught, and I always thought this was an idle threat as a kid. But here's a little bonus for you. Firstly, if you trigger too many alarms, 2 of the offices will be barricaded in the level. It's pretty cool, but if you manage to get 4 alarms and try to sneak out of the fire exit after finishing the heist, the guards that had been patrolling the front courtyard will attempt to ambush you through this passage. It's such an incredible touch, and these guys scared the shit out of me the first time I did this, as they're well camouflaged. All in all, you can tell the designers had a wonderful time trying to craft, balance, and polish this map, and in the process, they made one of the most beloved levels in stealth gaming history. Phenomenal work. Manhattan is another classic. The National Guard is here, and of course, Sam isn't to harm his countrymen, so there's a no-kill order. But he will eventually come across Displace, and the plot thickens, as we detailed previously. Overall, the style and the mood in this stage is heavy, and I love it. This is also a prime opportunity to discuss optional objectives. As the name would imply, these are optional opportunities that really let curious completionists explore each map to their fullest. They're pretty cool, finding weapons crates, uploading fake emails to make the bank heist look like an inside job, or as you can see here, tapping cameras in this swanky Manhattan penthouse. However, I do have to admit, it would have been nice to have some extra incentive to do them. A gadget upgrade or unlockable outfits, etc., incentivizing expert playthroughs beyond simple percentage increases and a few attaboys from command. Like the bank, the penthouse has a clever little gameplay bonus to discover. When gathering Dvorak's punch card output stack, normally you would work with the keeper to do this sequence. However, if you already know the pattern, you can just do it. The end result is the same, but there's bonus dialogue that celebrates Sam's big boy brain. Displace HQ is yet another classic Splinter Cell level, sneaking through a high-tech facility on US soil with a no-kill mandate under the cover of darkness. Classic Splinter Cell, and you just cannot beat the vibe. All the cool stealth tech is here, with moments like remote hacking a server inside of a briefcase on the move and the disappearing windows on the executive floors. Though, I gotta say, I did make a note of a strange AI quirk. Don't get me wrong, I think it's incredible that NPCs will notice doors being left open or lights being turned off. It asks the player to truly consider their footprint in each level, especially if you're trying to be stealthy. But here, the enemy AI somehow noticed that a keypad had been hacked. I mean, I guess I could see if they were concerned that a normally red keypad was now green, but even that's a stretch. But being able to look down and instantly surmise that the keypad had been hacked, that's a bit silly. Oh well, minor gripe. You also get to play with the OCP a little more here. Kill the electricity while a guy is running full tilt on a treadmill and enjoy. Oh, funny story. I once saw an old guy biff it on a treadmill in a gym. I was, stretching out or something nearby, and I just heard, "Oh!" and then a boom. He was fine, by the way. Uncrinkle your nose. And just as you finish the height of the new age spy tech stuff, we're taken to a resort on Hokkaido Island. No spotlights, briefcase servers, laser rooms, or drones, but rather, you need to blow out candles and be weary of nightingale boards meant to ward off ninjas. Another new move introduced in Chaos Theory is being able to snatch enemies through thin materials. It's yet another maneuver to give the player the satisfaction of being a vicious, deliberate operative. Battery is alright. A concrete missile base in North Korea. I like it, and I never scoff at it when it comes up. Plenty of climbing around and all that good stuff. A straightforward Splinter Cell level, but nothing mind-blowing. Soul is... well, it might be time to remove the rose-tinted glasses for just a moment. Part of this course is amazing, and I love the feeling of being a ghost inside of an active war zone. Despite the loathing that I feel for Kinshasa in Splinter Cell Double Agent, this is one thing I really liked about that level. Well, that's great and all, but I really detest the unmanned drones in Soul. There is a tremendous amount of frustration when you're doing your stealthy best only to be swept by the drone and poof, it's over. I didn't find it threatening or tense, just tedious and annoying. Oh well, at least the level ends very strongly. Expanding on the small decisional moments from Splinter Cell 2, but predating the large focus on choice in Double Agent, Chaos Theory gives the player a big decisional moment in Soul. A plane is down, and Sam needs to eradicate the data on board by calling in a bombing run. Problem is, the pilots are still alive. Do you order the strike and torch the pilots? It's easier, and it's safer for you, or you can risk extracting the pilots and possibly have to contend with some soldiers coming in. Look, it's nothing earth-shattering, but the drama and the tension are high, and you have a great sense of urgency if you choose to save them. The bathhouse. I've read several tier lists of Chaos Theory levels over the years, and some of them put the bathhouse near the bottom, some near the top. With respect to everyone's opinions, what the hell is this level? If you play it casually, it's a pretty cool stage. Plenty of alternate routes and opportunities for the sneaky man, but trying to play this level stealthily is an exercise in patience. You'll be on a good roll, only to have the hyper-alert civilians spot you and start screaming at the top of their lungs before being assaulted by the overbearing alert music. And this is all before the dreaded Warzone hallways and lame bomb defusal segment with Shetland. Just know that if you're going for an expert stealth run, especially the coveted 100%, the seams in the gameplay systems will become apparent to you, and the last third of this level is, frankly, a bit of shite. Oh well, it's just a level in a video game, it's not that serious, and I want you to remember that when you're slamming your mouse. Oh, I almost forgot to mention shoulder swapping. Such a simple little gameplay addition, but this was a big deal in 2005. Being able to keep yourself tucked in a shadow while angling for that OCP or the sticky shocker, so natural, so smooth. Kokubo Sosho is a lot like Displace, a fancy building with guards and cutting-edge technology and what have you. I love climbing the big red statue in the lobby personally. In the lower levels, enemies are equipped with sticky shockers. If you're spotted, you get knocked out and you need to break free from interrogation. Picking your own cuffs is actually a clever callback to the opening of Pandora Tomorrow, and is pretty creative overall, though it doesn't change the level that much. Ultimately, here's my final point about the gameplay in Splinter Cell 3. How much better could stealth gaming get mechanically? Different, sure, and I'm a huge fan of Metal Gear and a huge fan of Hitman, but the gameplay in Chaos Theory is simply so playable. Even when there's a heavy dose of scripted stuff going on, you still feel in control of every single movement and each outcome. Splinter Cell Blacklist was very slick, very fast, but it just sort of felt like the game was on autopilot sometimes. Push a few buttons and everything gets done for you. And this isn't nostalgia speaking, I just beat this thing, and it's just as fun as it was 20 years ago. Okay, let's just say it. Sam's face in this game looks ridiculous. He looks like Marty Feldman, and not on purpose. With that said, the rest of this game has always been a tall drink of water for the eyes, as they say. It really has, though. Just look at this. The amount of detail packed into each environment is phenomenal. The soothing fireplace, the chalkboard adorned with sketches, a few cots, the boarded windows over shattered glass, propane and propane accessories, and a box of brand cereal. I've ranted and raved about lighting in the first two Splinter Cell games, and needless to say, this game surpasses them both, but it's so much more than that. The atmosphere in Chaos Theory is second to none. I discussed the CIA in the first game and the TV station in Pandora Tomorrow. In Chaos Theory, levels like the bank in Panama are positively soaked with ambiance. The whole level is gorgeous, but the lobby with the stained glass ceiling is breathtaking. I don't know how else to describe this, but it makes me want to make music. It makes me want to paint. It inspires me. And if you're thinking to yourself, geez, calm down, it's just a game, whose fucking channel do you think you're on? I've made this point 1,000 times, but video games should never be overlooked as art when compared to other mediums. This is simply the digital version of oil painting on a canvas. And like painting, you have your amateurs and your experts. And in the world of video games, Ubisoft Montreal used to be the Claude Monet of the aughts. Accuse me of pretentious hyperbole, fine, whatever. But look at this, and tell me it's not at least kind of incredible. You have several other examples as well. I love sneaking through Zerkezi's swanky penthouse in Manhattan. The wide, minimalist bedroom, the connecting balcony that leads into the lovely kitchen area with a painting of the Manhattan Bridge dotted with blue LEDs. This then leads into the fancy living area that probably costs more per month than I make in a year. And this is what I like most about environments like this. It's not fantasy. These places exist, even though they're out of my grasp, but not in the game. I can exist in this space as long as I want, and it made me realize something. New York City real estate is the second biggest hustle behind religion. But it's not all artsy-fartsy stuff, okay? Some effects lead directly into the gameplay as well. Cutting through thin materials with your blade to snatch up an unsuspecting dude is still as cool as it ever was. Also, notice how this NPC was given a beard, and Sam mentions that he looks like he forgot to shave. They didn't have to add that beard, but here we are, and that's the extra mile that Ubisoft Montreal used to strive for. Also, when you stand in the rain, you'll notice that Sam's suit gets progressively more wet until the suit material is saturated and reflective. And when you have your goggles over your eyes, you get a slight fisheye perspective with the overlay of a lens, and without disrupting your view or making things feel too realistic. Ubi was flexing their skills with this engine hard, and the effort shows. Yes, there are repeat character models, and especially up close, several of the textures look smudged and dated. But you know, every now and then, an asphalt surface will glimmer under a light just right, and it can still kind of play tricks on your eyes. There are many other small touches too that sell the illusion. If you activate the sprinkler system in the bank vault, water will accumulate on the thick rugs outside of the vault, and you can practically feel that soggy, soppy texture. It's brilliant. The physics have received a complete overhaul as well. Smashing your palm into someone's temple and watching their limp body leave the ground is a sight to behold. And things like airfoil rounds now have a sense of serious weight and impact. And taking a suppressed shot at someone's head feels so brutal. It's not a big dramatic game animation, just zip and you're done. Anyway, the game just looks like a moving painting, and even though Sam's face looks goofy, 20 years on, the rest of Chaos Theory is a masterclass in video gaming graphics technology. Also, if you get a second, head over to patreon.com/hypertensionjohnny. Free membership grants you access to music, including the songs that you've heard in this video. Paid membership means that you got this video days ago. Also, you get exclusive access to videos that you will not find on YouTube, ever. Patreon.com/hypertensionjohnny. Go. Okay, thanks.
Look, I don't know who you are or why I'm helping you, other than it's better than staring at the ceiling in my cell.
Something about Chaos Theory that many fans love is how much more Sam Fisher dialogue Ubisoft Montreal included. Sam can interrogate most enemies in each level. Sometimes he's funny, sometimes he's absolutely menacing, but no matter the scenario, Michael Ironside completely owned this role. The first two games are iconic, and the character was well established, but it seemed that by the time that Chaos Theory rolled around, Ironside got really comfortable with the role. It's kind of astounding how well his voice translates to this character, and as I said earlier, the humor is delivered expertly, not forcefully.
Oh no! You are going to kill me, right?
Only if you say the word monkey. Now tell me something I want to know.
Ammunition and medical supplies. Check around inside the keep. They have tons of stuff in there.
Some of you guys are real helpful. Why do you have to work for the bad guys?
You're the American oppressor. You're the bad guy.
Are you gonna say monkey?
What? No!
Then this conversation is over.
There are also several, let's call them contextual interrogations, where Sam's dialogue directly reflects the environment we're in. For instance, this guard is making coffee at Displace headquarters, and Sam noticed.
Fresh ground or dried?
What?
The coffee machine. Ground or dried?
I'm not sure.
Then you better tell me something useful and fast.
But as I said, sometimes Sam isn't being funny. Sometimes Fisher wants someone to know that they are about to die at his hands. The rest of the cast does a phenomenal job. Don Jordan is just as good as Lambert as Michael Ironside is as Fisher. The guy really did put on a clinic during this game, and some moments really had him pumping up the drama. In the scene where Lambert orders Fisher to mark the downed aircraft for a missile strike, the acting is excellent, and I can explain why. So Fisher wants to do the right thing morally by saving the pilots. Lambert is the boss, and Don Jordan's performance conveys this perfectly. He doesn't ham it up by indulging in Sam's emotion, nor does he fight Fisher on it. His reactions are tempered, and he simply keeps Fisher on task and in reality. It shows how experienced a leader that the character of Lambert is. You know, I would love a Lambert prequel, showing his early work with Fisher and JSOC or something. Anyway, Claudia Besso does just as excellent a job as her counterparts, and she really is the definitive voice of Grim. Her consistent banter with Fisher, juxtaposed with her intelligence and problem-solving skills, make her an interesting, multidimensional character. I'm really not sure what they were thinking with her character in Splinter Cell Conviction, but we'll get to that. The only performances I really couldn't stand were Dvorak's Keeper and Captain Partridge. I know the Keeper is supposed to be a quirky geek that hasn't seen sunlight in 3 decades and blah blah blah. It's still corny and cringy and hard to listen to.
Since we're being blunt, well, no.
Then who are you?
Such a rush you're in. Fancy some tea, do you?
As is Captain Partridge.
All right, Fisher. The helicopter will drop you a few kilometers offshore in the Zodiac. You'll have one of my Zodiacs.
Yeah, man. Let's shut the fuck up.
The whole, I'm a big gruff Navy man, yeah. Ugh. Thankfully, these characters are minimal and they don't spoil the game at all. In addition to a very special crowbar reference, Ubi worked in a few clever digs at its #1 competitor of the day, and I'm so glad that I got to live through the era where Metal Gear and Splinter Cell continued to excel in their own ways while taking healthy jabs at one another all the while. It was a really good time. Outside of the acting and the music, I need to praise the overall sound design in this game, which is first rate. Take your time to really savor some of the incredible Foley work. Here, have a taste. Like a Sonic Sauvignon aged 20 years. I said a lot about Amon Tobin's soundtrack in my first review of this game, and I don't want to go through rehashing everything, but I just need to say a few things and then I'll move on. Adaptive music existed before Chaos Theory. Manhunt was an excellent example of a game soundtrack shifting and changing based on the player's actions, and each track was recorded with multiple layers to permit a dynamic soundscape. Chaos Theory took this concept and implemented it brilliantly. I've read books along with, exercised to, studied to, and driven around to this music countless times over the years. It's pleasurable to listen to on its own, but inside of the framework of the game, the way the tracks carry the atmosphere of Chaos Theory under the gameplay cannot be overstated. It kind of made the old Splinter Cell games feel like your dad's stealth game, for guys that read dry political books in silence. Amon Tobin's music made Chaos Theory feel like it was hip and stylish. It also introduced me to Amon Tobin, which is something I'm still grateful for to this day. He's a huge influence on me musically. Also, the ultimate video game composer, Jesper Kyd, contributed music to this soundtrack, mostly the big dramatic stuff for the cutscenes. Is it any good? Yeah, dude, it's Jesper Kyd, like. So, in my review of Pandora tomorrow, I talked about why I don't feel the need to discuss multiplayer Spies vs. Mercs. Don't get me wrong, it's literally the most creative multiplayer mode ever made. But there are some personal reasons and yada yada yada. Watch the Pandora review for more if you want. However, that doesn't mean I don't want to discuss that sweet, sweet co-op. If you search best co-op games, you'll see some good ones. Cuphead, amazing. Portal 2, one of the best video games ever, and a nearly perfect 2-player experience. Diablo 4? Okay, I guess we'll just put that there instead of Diablo 2 and just pretend that it's better, but alright. However, do you know what I noticed? Where the fuck is Chaos Theory? Alright, so many excellent co-op games exist, and some of my happiest memories throughout life are gaming with friends. But a lot of the co-op games I've played, while great, just play like the single-player game with extra players. So in 2005, when Chaos Theory came out, it was rare that a game was developed specifically around co-op play. The story isn't complicated. You play as up-and-coming third echelon Splinter Cells named Agent 1 and 2. Despite the latrine-based codenames, 1 and 2 have a bit of personality. Their little lines when you request a team maneuver are funny to me. It's like they're whispering and shouting at the same time. During the scenes where they actually talk, the lines are well written and charming. Additionally, there's overlap with the single-player campaign, and hearing Sam Fisher's dialogue from another perspective is awesome and very clever.
All right, Fisher. Go ahead.
I've got someone who wants to talk to you.
Roger. Ask him where they took John.
Where did you take John?
I don't know what you're talking about.
He's not answering. Should I kill him?
Negative.
All right. They say I should kill you, so...
Wait, okay.
Joe.
Patch us in.
All right, Fisher. Go ahead.
I got someone who wants to talk to you.
Roger. Ask him where they took John.
Where did you take John?
I don't know what you're talking about.
He's not answering. Should I kill him?
Negative.
All right. They say I should kill you, so...
Wait, okay, John.
The graphics and sound are intact and just as lovely as in the single-player campaign. Although, I will say, I started a co-op playthrough with my original Xbox disc on a 360, and it was working fine, totally playable. But then I tried the version with the Xbox One and Series enhancements, and dude, it is so nice. We had to start over, it was that good. The frame rate is buttery, the screen tearing is gone, and the shadows and black textures are deep, dark, and gorgeous. The warm colors are rich and much less washed out than the original copy. And overall, if you don't plan on playing the PC version, you should download this one right now before it gets delisted like the other ones. If you do have the PC copy, co-op is doable, but it takes some work. I suggest watching this tutorial video from Nens. I've linked it in the description. Tell her that Johnny says hello. Anyhow, the important aspect is the gameplay, and this is where everything shines like polished metal. It's amazing how naturally the cooperative moves weave into the basic gameplay foundation of the single-player campaign. Multivision goggles, closer than ever, the SC20K, the light and sound meter, all the basics are here, but the new two-player specific moves really enhance everything. Tap right on the bumper, or black button on the original controller, and your agent can request a co-op move. It's always sweet launching your partner up to a ledge, and once he's in position, your partner then hits the bumper to call for you, and you climb up his body like a ladder. If you stand upright and do these commands, you can launch your partner like a lawn dart in a tomonage. Woo! Other moves are prompt-based. Stand at a ledge, hit A, and you can help lower your partner down the side of a wall. Or lower them upside down to hack a computer, which is something straight out of a spy movie. You can also stand on your fellow agent's shoulders to set explosives on equipment that needs destroying. But the best part is how the OCP has been altered. Instead of taking a single OCP shot like Fisher, you now have to hold the trigger down to disrupt electronics, and it works perfectly as a cooperative maneuver. Of course, like the single player, you could run through each level just blasting away, but if you want the perfect stealth run, you freeze the light for me, and then I'll get it for you. Nice and quiet. And the OCP only lasts for a short period of time, so you need to plan your moves and execute them swiftly. It kinda reminded me of the co-op dynamics of the Xbox version of Doom 3, another sadly forgotten yet excellent two-player experience. One dude's holding the flashlight, the other guy's got the shotgun. It was so good. The only complaint for Chaos Theory co-op that I could think of during our playthrough was that sometimes objectives and orientation can be a little confusing. It's not brain surgery, but we did wander a bit because maybe we missed a little ladder tucked under a stairwell, or we passed by the single door we needed. And then, okay, we need to brew a vaccine, and I need a blood sample, but I can't grab it until I find a random object on a random desk, and okay, now I guess I can grab that blood. Okay. Now, of course, it really helps when you listen to Lambert as he gives you instructions. It also really helps to go into your OPSAT and read the objective descriptions. But unfortunately, at least on split screen, you can't pull up your map. It's confusing because when one player pauses, the whole screen is taken over, so it's not like the map had to be condensed or anything. Oh well. You'll be having too much fun hacking dual retinal scanners or OCPing laser panels for your buddy to care, I promise. All told, the co-op campaign in Chaos Theory is a bloody good time, and it fits perfectly with the brilliant single-player campaign and multiplayer suite. Definitely play this one before you kick the bucket. And if you need a co-op partner, leave a comment, give me a shout. Shit, I'll play with you. Ask any Splinter Cell fan to rank the series. 99% of the time, Chaos Theory is at the top with a bullet, and there's a reason for that. It's not a hive mind thing. It's real simple. Splinter Cell Chaos Theory is the shit, and watching Ubisoft fumble this perfect formula over and over after this was disheartening, to say the least. Oh well. You know, Pearl Jam made a bunch of shitty albums, but at least we can always go back and listen to 10 if we want to. So this is easily the best game in this franchise, and if it isn't the greatest stealth video game ever, it's a damn strong contender. A masterful single-player campaign, an incredible one-of-a-kind multiplayer mode, and a fantastic co-op campaign that pushes players to really work together to succeed. Much like Lex Luger, Splinter Cell Chaos Theory is the total package and is a certified masterpiece. It is truthfully one of a kind. It feels weird that those are the last words I'll ever say about Chaos Theory. Well, unless we're talking about the GameCube versions. It shows how experienced a leader that a character like Sambert, Jesus,